You might not know how many calories were in that sandwich, but if you got lunch at the Massachusetts General Hospital cafeteria, you could tell with one glance whether you'd made a healthful choice. Offerings are color-coded. Simply posting calories does not always get consumers to make healthier choices, so researchers tried something different. Mass General's cafeteria food and beverage options were classified as least, somewhat, or most healthful with red, yellow, or green labels. Green is healthiest. Researchers then tracked some 4,600 employees. About 6 months after the changes were made, the purchases of red label foods decreased by more than 15%, and red beverages dropped by 39%. Green food and drink purchases increased, according to the study in the American Journal of Preventive Medicine. Making healthy food choices easier could especially help the poor and undereducated, the very populations most affected by the obesity epidemic. Mass General employees from these groups made the biggest improvements.
We sign our names to various documents all the time. Some signatures seal a legal contract. Others pledge us to an action. Now a study finds that when and where someone signs a document can influence the likelihood of them being honest or cheating. Scientists had people sign more than 1,300 auto insurance forms. One group signed at the top of the form, the other at the bottom. And those who signed at the top admitted to nearly 2,500 more miles of usage than those who signed at the bottom, which translated into about a $48 difference in annual premiums. According to the researchers, because the top signers put their names on the document before they were even tempted to fabricate information, they are less likely to act dishonestly. The study is in the Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences. Many people routinely deceive themselves to rationalize dishonest behavior. The $345 billion gap between what people should be paying in U.S. taxes and what they claim isn't just due to chronic liars. It also depends on normally honest people stretching the truth. Perhaps having taxpayers sign their forms before filling them out would cut down on that stretching. Some people turn their homes into pack rat middens. Such hoarding was thought to be a type of obsessive-compulsive disorder, also known as OCD. But in the most recent diagnostic manual of psychological disorders, hoarding is proposed to be a unique condition. It's now thought to be more about avoiding making decisions about possessions than a general obsession with them. In a recent study, scientists compared the brain activity of hoarders with that of those with OCD, while the subjects were deciding whether to keep or toss their own junk mail and the junk mail of others. Ownership did not affect the brain activity or choices of those with OCD, but the hoarders were different. Their decision-making brain circuit was quiet when contemplating others' mail, but became overactive for decisions about their own mail. Not surprisingly, hoarders kept significantly more of their own mail than the OCD group did. The study is in the Archives of General Psychiatry. Hoarders' self-ratings of indecisiveness correlated with the amount of activity in brain circuits related to exaggerated perception of the risk of a wrong decision. The researchers suggest that hoarding behavior has its own specific symptoms and should be treated differently than OCD.
Secret identities aren't just for superheroes anymore. Researchers have found that a protein present in everything from amoebas to people is living a double life. Once it binds to DNA, the protein, called RFAH, rips apart and then refolds into a different shape to do a different job. RFAH is a transcription protein. Attached to or freed from a stretch of DNA, it determines if a gene is expressed or not. But once the protein has carried out its task, its helical structure unravels. Within seconds, it refolds into a barrel structure, which has a new role, this time in translation, where it helps the cell produce amino acids for new proteins. The study is in the journal Cell. The next step is to find out if the barrel can refold into the helix. After that, researchers want to see if proteins similar to RFAH, which are present in all life on Earth, are capable of comparable molecular contortion, which would mean a lot more bang for our protein buck.
Scientists think they can make them even more healthful is literally shocking. Researchers found that giving a jolt of electricity to sweet potatoes increased the level of antioxidants known as polyphenols by 60%. The investigators placed sweet potatoes in a solution of sodium chloride. They found that 0.2 amps of direct current gave the potatoes nearly 1.5 times more antioxidants than potatoes that weren't shocked. The research was presented at the National Meeting of the American Chemical Society. It seems that the electric zap stressed the potatoes into producing more polyphenols as a protective mechanism, and the treatment did not sacrifice flavor. Previous research has shown that electrically supercharging white potatoes increases antioxidant levels, so perhaps it's only a matter of time before other fruits and vegetables get shock therapy too.
Kids from the ages of 2 to 19 consume about 7 trillion calories in sugar-sweetened beverages per year, according to Steve Gortmacher of the Harvard School of Public Health. He spoke at the Obesity Society annual scientific meeting in San Antonio on September 23rd. 7 trillion is a lot of calories in sugar-sweetened beverages. At, for example, 50 cents per can, it's about $24 billion a year. All those dollars in sugary calories are stoking the childhood obesity epidemic. Currently in the US, about 17% of children and adolescents are obese. That's more than 12.5 million kids. And new research in the British Medical Journal suggests that obese children will have much higher risk factors for cardiovascular disease as adults. Even as kids, their hearts are changing shape to look like those of adults at risk for heart disease. But the good news is that simply cutting out about 64 calories a day from kids' diets could start to level out the steep rise in childhood obesity. That's equivalent to less than half a can of most non-diet sodas.
Are we smarter than the dinosaurs? Specifically, are we clever enough to avoid their fate? If we don't want to be blown away by an asteroid, it would help to know what's out there. That's the idea behind the Sentinel mission. Sentinel is an infrared space telescope designed to spot near-Earth asteroids, but it won't be near Earth. It will launch in 2017 or 18 and adopt a Venus-like orbit around the Sun. From there, it will search space for any asteroids that might come dangerously close to Earth. It could double the known count of near-Earth asteroids in a matter of weeks, and with enough warning, we'd have a chance to deflect an inbound asteroid. Sentinel is the brainchild of the B612 Foundation. B612 was the asteroid home of literature's Little Prince. The group announced their plans for Sentinel on June 28th. But those plans depend on funding. The B612 Foundation is a nonprofit that aims to finance Sentinel through philanthropy. Former NASA astronaut Ed Lu heads the foundation. He says Sentinel needs a few $100 million to get off the ground. That's a lot of cash, but the B612 Foundation might make it. After all, when it comes to fundraising, humans leave the dinosaurs in the dust.
Meetings, calls, kids, dogs, errands, exercise, and all those emails. Who doesn't feel starved for time these days? But a new study suggests that you can feel like you have more time by donating some to others. The research is in the journal Psychological Science. There really are only 24 hours in a day, 7 or 8 of which are ideally spent sleeping. And a time commitment does take time. But researchers found that if people felt like they had done something for others, their perception was that they had gotten more done than the people who killed time, spent time on themselves, or got unexpected free time. And that made them feel like they had more time overall. You don't even have to spend your whole Sunday volunteering. The helping tasks in the study took only about 5 to 15 minutes. They included things like editing a student's essay or writing a note to a sick child. Time donators also felt like they could do more with their time, making them even more willing to give time in the future.
Japan's Fukushima Daiichi nuclear power plant suffered 3 meltdowns last year. Paired with hydrogen explosions, these meltdowns allowed radioactive material to escape. So what's the effect been on the environment and human health? The first clues come from what's called the pale grass blue butterfly. This delicate insect's wings change color and pattern in response to environmental changes. The offspring of female butterflies caught in the Fukushima region 6 months after the meltdowns sported such color pattern changes, as well as deformed legs, antennae, wings, and even eyes. The deformities persisted and got worse in the second generation of offspring as well. The same deformities were found in butterflies collected from the wild, and the researchers induced similar effects by exposing normal butterflies to radiation from cesium particles, like those that escaped Fukushima Daiichi. The research is in the journal Nature Scientific Reports. As for people, more than 3,000 individuals from a town 23 kilometers north of the stricken nuclear power plant also bore detectable levels of radioactive cesium in their bodies. Their total dose of less than 1 millisievert is considered safe, and no radiation sickness was observed. But, says a report in the Journal of the American Medical Association, the men, women, and children exposed need to be watched for the long-term effects of that radiation for the rest of their lives.
As a kindergarten teacher might say, sharing is caring. She might not mention that cooperation is also a great way to form a community and thus improve everyone's chances of survival. Humans aren't the only ones to apply this strategy. Marine bacteria also form cooperative populations, according to a study in the journal Science. Researchers examined the genomes of bacteria belonging to the Vibrionaceae family. In the lab, they grouped together bacteria with similar genetics that coexist in the same microhabitat. The scientists expected that within any given population, individuals capable of producing antibiotics would use these chemical weapons against others. But when they looked at interactions between different strains of Vibrionaceae, they found that only a few members of any given population could produce the bacteria-killing substances, and the rest of that community was resistant to those particular compounds. But the antibiotics could fight off foreign populations while leaving members of the home group unharmed. This arrangement implies a bacterial social structure, where individuals help the group as a whole. Cran-hoarding toddlers might want to take note.
With more and more car accidents attributed to distracted driving, it's become clear just how dangerous it can be to fiddle with your cell phone while behind the wheel. Now it seems more and more people are failing to safely use their mobile gadgets while walking. The number of distracted walkers injured seriously enough to be treated at hospital emergency rooms have more than quadrupled in the past 7 years, according to the Associated Press. That's not even counting the untold incidents of stubbing your toe or doing that little trip-run move across the sidewalk. These hospital cases are people who get hit by cars, fall off curbs, or even onto train tracks because they're too busy texting, surfing the web, or in some other way too distracted to watch where they're going. There were about 1,150 such incidents last year. There isn't any hard evidence yet that proves pedestrian gadget distraction increases the chances of pedestrian mishaps. Still, it's hard to argue with the anecdotal evidence available at the nearest street corner. Perhaps you've seen the video of the walker in California who's concentrating so hard on his mobile device that he almost bumps into a bear. Don't be that guy.
Touchdown confirmed. We're safe on Mars. Time to see where our curiosity will take us.
The control room at NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory, late in the evening of August 5th Pacific Time, when word arrived that the Curiosity rover had landed safely on Mars. The 1-ton rover, which dwarfs all Mars landers that came before it, will now spend a planned 2 years exploring the Martian surface. The mission is expected to cost $2.5 billion. Curiosity's task is to investigate the inside of Gale Crater, where a giant mound of sedimentary deposits may provide evidence of a wetter, possibly habitable Mars billions of years ago. But first it had to survive an elaborate landing sequence, which appears to have gone smoothly. Curiosity landed on time and on target, and soon beamed back grainy photos of its wheels and its shadow. Given the car-like size of the rover and the challenges of landing on Mars, Curiosity's landing goes down as one of the greatest parking jobs in history.
Having a kid changes everything, from your sleep schedule to the status of that formerly spare room. The stable of bacteria that live in a woman's gut is also transformed when their host becomes pregnant. So finds research in the journal Cell. The study looked at women in Finland. The women's microbial makeup changed dramatically between the first and third trimesters. The array of microbes in the gut went from looking normal in the first 3 months of a pregnancy to resembling what's found in patients suffering from metabolic disease in the last 3. But some symptoms of that condition, like weight gain and slower sugar metabolism, can be beneficial to pregnant women, supporting energy storage that helps a fetus develop. Other symptoms, like inflammation, demonstrate that the immune system is functioning properly as a pregnancy comes to term. Scientists don't yet fully understand what brings about the changes in gut bacteria. Immune function is a suspect, but factors like hormonal signals aren't ruled out. The research suggests that other changes to the body, like puberty or old age, could also bring about microbial makeovers.
If you're thinking about upgrading to Apple's new iPhone 5 when it debuts in a few weeks, you're going to have to figure out what to do with your current device. Given how much we've come to rely on these gadgets for storing pictures, contacts, and personal information, some serious privacy issues should be considered before selling, recycling, or trading in your old phone. Typically, you restore factory settings on your smartphone before parting ways. But a couple of recent articles on NBCnews.com and Yahoo.com find that factory resets are inconsistent depending on the phone. BlackBerry and Apple resets appear to delete and scrub personal data the best, according to data retrieval experiments described in the articles. But Android and Microsoft smartphones weren't as good at wiping important information. In the Yahoo article, computer analyst Steve Burgess recommends that, in addition to the factory reset, you should remove a phone's memory and SIM cards before turning it in. Robert Siciliano's advice in the NBCnews.com story was a bit more severe. He recommends a drill, a sledgehammer, and a bucket of salt water.